In 2015, the Board of Selectmen unanimously approved a resolution to meet 100% of community-wide electricity consumption with renewable resources by the year 2025, and to meet the equivalent of 100% of economy-wide energy consumption, such as electricity, heating, transportation, with renewable energy resources by 2030. The current Board of Selectmen has not addressed the issue to our knowledge. Do you have plans to address the town's energy consumption? And this question goes to Ms. Goupil.
Absolutely. I fully believe that the Energy Committee is doing a wonderful job in making Clinton the first on the map within Connecticut, to address sustainability with a goal of 2030. I think it's something that is feasible. We're looking currently at sites around town, such as the landfill in Stanley Bostitch, for potential solar farms. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and going out to an RFP process, which is a request for proposal from other developers looking at solar farms. So that is something we can do. There's tax credits on the market that will help support the town. So this is a win-win for the town if we can get that type of development to take place in the town. The Energy Committee has also been working very closely with the municipal buildings to make sure that they can find cost-saving measures, specifically light bulbs, low-hanging fruit, all the way up to putting solar and addressing some of the heating sources in town and windows. There's a lot of credits, like I said, available to us that we can go into the buildings and do these at very low cost to the town. At this point, there's also opportunities within Clinton, which the Energy Committee has been working on, and bringing the home energy audits to residents. So if you're on a lower income scale, you have the opportunity to, some of these programs are free, and they'll come in and they'll caulk your windows and they'll do a home energy audit and really tighten up your whole house, but they'll replace your light bulbs, and sometimes, in some instances, they'll replace out-of-dated appliances as well. So there's different levels to the program that the Energy Committee's been working on, and I think they've done a tremendous job. They put the charging station at Town Hall for electric cars, and I'd love to see them expand into other areas of the town, and I'd love to see us remain on the map, but also advertise that. I think is a really big thing that's going to attract millennials to their town. It's a very attractive idea, and it's a sustainable idea, which is important for us moving forward.
Thank you, Mrs. Goupil. Mr. Carr?
Well, this is one that I think we agree on. There's no real difference. There's no light between us on this. Paul Goupil, who I see out in the audience, I don't see Aiden. These two guys have done, Aiden down here someplace? But these guys have really done a great job. They've taken it from 0 to 120 miles an hour in 60 seconds. I mean, it's really been impressive. John Husani's here also has done a lot of work with the businesses to try to get them to adopt energy saving lighting. But this is one of those things that we all have a big stake in renewable energy. I think the planet has certainly improved because of it. But if we can do it in ways that save us money and that reduce the overhead, in the end, that's a win all the way around. So, I think Christine and I would not have much of a difference on this one.
Thank you. Would you like a rebuttal?
I think, other than the grants that are available to us, I think it's like I said, it's really important for us to consider this as a marketing opportunity for millennials and attracting them to the town to really create a different view of what Clinton is. And there's other opportunities such as the Greenway and making it a bikeable community so that people are finding other transportation methods to get to locations throughout town and or all the way to New Haven. That is the potential right now, and we shouldn't disregard it, and it is the future, the direction that we're going.
Thank you. Mr. Carr?
Once again, I couldn't say it better. I think we've got a lot of opportunity in this area, and we ought to seize it.
Thank you.
And now for the final question. A state law passed in 1989 with the intent of reversing housing discrimination requires that 10% of a town's total housing stock be affordable to families earning, in most cases, $64,000 a year or less. In addition to this, affordable housing restricted to senior citizens does not count the same way that other income-restricted housing does. Where is Clinton now regarding its housing stock? Where should it be? And what do you recommend moving forward? This is directed to Mr. Carr.
Well, affordable housing is one of those issues that can be controversial because there are people who feel that it will attract more lower income. I mean, it's very easy to grow poverty. It's very hard to grow prosperity. And there's always that fear that by supplying a great deal of additional affordable housing, you're going to create more poverty. The poverty in Clinton has gone from 2.6 to 9%, dropped back down to about 8.6% in 2015, I believe. But it is what we do need, and clearly we need, because there's a very long waiting list, and we do need elderly housing in this town. People who are from Clinton, who've lived in Clinton sometimes for decades, and who need some place where they can live that's more affordable than they can afford now. In some cases, because their taxes have gone through the roof and they can't afford their homes anymore. That sometimes is sort of the Democratic playbook. They tax you out of your home and then they give you affordable housing. But the thing that we do need to do is that there are people who are living in Clinton in certain circumstances in sub-quality housing, and if we could move those people up without refilling some of the places. I mean, you think about the places across from McDonald's. If we could move the people in those places into something that's more livable and close those, that would be real progress. And I don't think those places across from McDonald's count as affordable housing. They don't do anything for us. The other thing to recognize is that for someone to qualify for affordable housing, they have to have an income of less than so much, but of at least so much. So there's a very narrow band that affordable housing can provide. The other thing is the state provides all kinds of grants and tax credits to build these things, and they can be a magnet for certain kinds of corruption, where people are making obscene amounts of money on what should be basically philanthropic 501c3 kinds of developments. So as I've said to Christine before on this topic, I'm all about doing well by doing good, but sometimes it's a little too well. I also think we need to think about affordable housing as a regional solution, so that Madison and Westbrook and Old Saybrook, that we're all increasing affordable housing at similar rates, so that Clinton doesn't become the place where all the affordable housing ends up being.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Mrs. Goupil?
So affordable housing is something that's actually very near and dear to my heart. The current situation in town, so we're looking at a poverty rate around 8.9% right now. And so that means there's people who have really difficult time subsisting on their incomes and also affording their rent and or mortgage payments. And this goes along with seniors all the way up and down our demographics. So it was in 2016 I started a housing coalition after numerous opportunities at the state level at conferences as a panelist, answering questions for people saying, how are you moving forward policy in town to accommodate for affordable housing? And I kept saying, well, it really takes a civic organization because there is no structure within town. And I kept saying this, and finally a bell went off and said, I am going to be it. So since then, we've been addressing on the local level everything from people coming in and not being able to pay their rent or being evicted very recently and trying to find housing for them, but also looking at our historic properties in town, and that's an opportunity where we can rehab them, we're creating revolving funds so that you could rehab them, utilize them, and purchase additional historic properties and keep spending the money. And that benefits the sense of place within Clinton. We are a historic community and we need to support that. But affordable housing really does touch every demographic in town if you're not making more than 80% of the median income, so $64,000. These are your police department, these are your teachers. So it runs the gamut, and these are the people in your community that work in your businesses. You want them to be able to stay in the community. You want them to be able to stay in the school system so they have a supportive structure. So you have a lot of areas in town where people are struggling, such as the manufactured mobile home parks or the trailer parks, as some people call them. It actually is very expensive for these people to be living in those areas. You wouldn't believe it, but then it's also very difficult for them to maintain their properties. They're just not the type of property that you can rehab very easily. So we need to address it at a local level, but also at our local government level. That has not been addressed whatsoever. And I would strongly urge moving forward on the structure of a Board of Selectmen as the First Selectman, making sure that we form a housing partnership, which is the structure the town should have. And they would be working with the social services, they would be working with the police department and the fire department to address what's going on in town. There's a lot of homes that are real danger to people, but they're living in them because they have no other opportunity, and they're afraid to go to what we have as our Fair Rent Commission, because if they complain, they might get evicted and then they really have nowhere else to live. And the surrounding towns, it doesn't get any cheaper moving to the surrounding towns. So I absolutely very supportive of affordable housing, and there's a lot of structures within the government structure of creating affordable housing that is appropriate in an appropriate location with transit-oriented development so that they can access public transportation if they can't afford a car. But also you can also determine what it's going to look like as well. There are design standards applied to them.
Thank you. Mr. Carr, would you like a rebuttal?
Well, you know, it's a myth that police and teachers, I mean, there are very few that make less than $64,000, that this would somehow, you know, keep them in the community. There are people in the community that do make those low incomes, and who are a real asset to the town, and who we should try to accommodate as much as we can. So, you know, I'm in favor of that, particularly if we can upgrade the living standards and the living styles of those people. But we have to close some things. In other words, some of the bad places that people live. If all we do is move these people into new facilities, and those bad facilities continue to exist, and we move more people into those bad facilities, I'm not sure what we've accomplished. And I haven't heard a solution to that. I mean, I think that's something that we've got to think about. Is, you know, how do we condemn some of the bad things and improve people's living conditions?
Mrs. Goupil, a rebuttal?
Well, that specifically, if you're going to deal with some of the issues of locations in town that should be condemned, that's working with your land use office, your building inspectors, and that needs to be stepped up. There are some real issues in town, and the fire department certainly knows about it, the police department certainly knows about it. It needs to be dealt with before somebody does get in a situation where they're injured or dies. There is a structure there, it just needs to get a little nudge to actually take care of it. At the end of the day, there are things you can do to relocate some of these people. So if you have a manufactured mobile home park, you can create a home association for these people, and they can work together to find a better location in town to relocate them. Some of our manufactured mobile home parks are in areas of inundation, and they also have septic issues. DEEP has mandated that they are resolved. So this could be some opportunity within the state to work with different agencies to find a better location for them in town and potentially close some of them. And also,
Thank you both for your answers tonight. In reverse order of the introduction, we will now offer closing statements for the candidates.